Welcome to the Goodwill Hinton weekly videocast. Today is October 20th, 2008. I'm joined today by Eric Metaxas here in his New York City apartment. Eric is a Renaissance man. Eric has done a number of things, including writing for VeggieTales. He has written for Chuck Colson and has recently written a biography that he's working on Dietrich Bonhoeffer,
yes.
Among other things. Tell me a little, Eric, all these different things you're working on, how do they come together? Or maybe describe what it is you do.
Well, the thing is they don't come together. That's why we're here, to figure out, can we bring them together? I'm sort of, at this point, famous for being all over the map because I like to do all these things, and I do them genuinely. It's not like I think, I'd like to do something strange and different, but it's just... my career has led me through writing humor. I've written humor for the New York Times in the sort of mold of my humor writing heroes, Woody Allen or Perlman or Benchley or whatever. I've written children's books. I've written a lot of children's books. Worked for VeggieTales. Worked for Chuck Colson writing about the culture. I'm really interested in all these things, and I think that where they come together for me is they're all about the culture.
Yeah.
The culture. So if I was going to get T-shirts made up, they would say, it's the culture, stupid. Mm-hmm. Except I don't like using the word stupid, so I'm not going to have these shirts made up. I apologize. Sorry. But I don't want to stop anybody at home from, if you want to make them up, go ahead. Just, I had nothing to do with it. But if it weren't for that, I would definitely say, that's my motto, because the culture, we talk about politics, we talk about all these things that are important, but fundamentally, especially in America today, the culture is important. And so if you're speaking in this culture, having a sense of humor helps. I think it's the irony is the part of the lingua franca of the culture. It wasn't true 50 years ago, but it's really important today. And I like creating different things. I like talking about God. I like not talking about God. I like eating soup. I like not eating soup. I like doing a lot of different kinds of things, and so sometimes I do things sort of on the nose, and other times I do things that have nothing to do with my faith. So I think that the point is that there really is no point. But see, the readers, the listeners already figured that out like 60 seconds ago. So,
what about the culture got you to write about William Wilberforce?
Wilberforce, I just love Wilberforce. He's a hero of mine. My dear friend Oz Guinness introduced me to Wilberforce years ago when nobody was talking about bicentennials or anything like that. And I thought, boy, this is somebody that... I actually wrote about Wilberforce in my first book for adults called Everything You Want to Know About God. Or Afraid to Ask. I mentioned Wilberforce, just mentioned him. And by some fluke, I was on CNN talking about that book. And Kira Phillips, the host on CNN, says, and you've got something in here about history and whatever, and Wilberforce and blah, 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 blah. And I said, yes, and I talked a little bit about Wilberforce. Well, my editor at Harper One in San Francisco, I guess, was trying to find somebody to write a biography of Wilberforce. And so when he found me talking about Wilberforce with this passion on CNN, he thought maybe this guy would be willing to take this project on for $8 an hour. And my agent got $8.40. I just want people to know, so it's not as bad as it sounds. But yeah, I just, when he said, would you like to write a biography of Wilberforce, I thought, oh my gosh, if there's anybody on the planet I'd love to write about, Wilberforce would be it, no question. There's maybe one other person in the world that I would be willing to write a biography about, and that would be Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And of course, I'm now almost done with a biography of Bonhoeffer. But they're both figures that they were engaged in the culture. Mm-hmm. I mean, Wilberforce, of course, was a politician, but he understood that you can't separate politics from culture.
Yeah. And
so he was involved in a million different things, and he's such a rare figure. He was a genuinely humble man, honest. To think that he was a successful politician who was really honest and really humble, that's probably somebody we could learn from.
Yeah. So jumping over from biographies You've also done a number of children's books, and you have a new one that you just released.
Yes, I have. This isn't planned, by the way. Everybody knows this was not planned. It just happened. I've written a lot of children's. For anybody who goes to my website, ericmetaxas.com, you can see that I like to write children's poems or light verse, rhymes, and a lot of the children's books that I've done are in rhyme. And about 13 years ago, my wife and I were just engaged. I got a horrible job in the world of advertising. It was really unpleasant. And for my mental health, this is like out of a movie, right? For my mental health on the commuter train, I would write children's verse. And I wrote this lullaby. It's one of those strange things where you say, I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why I wrote a lullaby, but I wrote this lullaby. And, a poem. And I thought, gosh, this would be a great children's book. It would be the perfect book to read to kids when they're falling asleep. I mean, this is, now this was before we had kids. This was before we were married. And so for over the years, I've tried to interest people in it. And the title of the poem, the lullaby, is It's Time to Sleep, My Love. And about 2 years ago, to make a long story a little bit short, this extraordinary agent, Kathy Hemming, hooked me up with this amazing illustrator and children's book author whose name is Nancy Tillman. Nancy Tillman's last book sold like 500,000 copies. It's called On the Night You Were Born. Huge, New York Times bestseller. And she loved my poem and said, I want this to be my next book. So as of about a week ago, my book, It's Time to Sleep, My Love, is out. And even more amazing to me, I thought somebody should sing this as a song. It's a lullaby, right? So who can we get? And my dream guy for this, all these years I thought James Taylor's voice, he would be ideal. Now the odds of getting him are extremely slim, but he'd be the person to sing this because I know these words, obviously I wrote the words and stuff. So we tried to get him and we couldn't get him, but his daughter, Sally Taylor, who is amazing, and I didn't know how amazing she was until I got the MP3 of the song, and it's just like, it's heavenly. I have to say, I'm stunned that it's as good as it is. She sings it to her 1-year-old baby. You can tell that she's singing from her heart, and it's just beautiful. So I don't know if we're going to get interrupted by a voice or something.
So I saw on your website that your book is leading to a rash of people falling asleep.
We did not anticipate this, Will, but the fact of the matter is that the publisher, when you're publishing a lullaby, I mean, obviously the point is to get people to fall asleep, and the publisher, they just use some advanced printing technology, and they put 2 parts per million tryptophan. That's the stuff in turkeys that makes us sleep on Thanksgiving, and they put that into the ink, and it really doesn't change the ink, but it does. Evidently affect the reader, because we've been getting reports around the country people are falling asleep. Almost everyone who even comes near the book, within 24 hours at some point they go into a deep sleep. Nobody, I mean, obviously this is hard anecdotal evidence, so we need more. We need to see more of the research that's going to be done on this. But it works. It works. And actually on my website I've got a video. This is the shocker. It even works on pets.
Awesome.
And on former presidents. Former President Bill Clinton got near a copy, and I've got a video on my site of him. You can see he's trying to fight it, but the tryptophan is it's very powerful stuff, and evidently he didn't win. He fell asleep. So, but you can see it on my website. I'm not making this up. This is not just to sell books. You understand?
Absolutely.
This is hard anecdotal evidence.
That's why I saw it on the site.
Okay.
I was impressed.
Right.
So switching gears a little bit, you have for a number of years led a thing here in the city called Socrates in the City.
No, that's another Eric Metaxas.
Oh, different guy. Okay. Would you like to talk about
Actually, no.
Eric Metaxas?
But I'm also that other Eric Metaxas.
Okay.
But it is a different Eric Metaxas. But I'm also him. And I have to say that Socrates in the City is one of these things that when I moved to New York City, when our daughter was born, we moved here, and we thought, if ever there was a place that needed to hear brilliant speakers like some of the folks that I was familiar with, I mentioned Oz Guinness. Mm-hmm. There are people that have written these books that are they're brilliant, you don't get to hear them in places like New York. Maybe they're doing a conference in Dallas or someplace or whatever. But if ever people would appreciate folks like, again, Os Guinness or Sir John Polkinghorne, physicist who's an Anglican priest who writes on science and faith, just amazing people. I thought, well, let's figure out a way to get them to come to New York City, and we'll invite our friends, and we'll come, we'll have some wine, and we'll hear them speak, and we'll have some fun. And so we've been doing this since the fall of 2000, which is pretty long. And we do them, we try to do about once a month. We sort of take the summers off and stuff, but we have had them in just the glorious clubs around the city, fancy clubs, and as I said, there's wine and hors d'oeuvres and great crowds. And we get a total mix of people. I mean, we've had Moby come, we've had Ann Coulter come, we've had Dick Cavett come, we have people all across the spectrum of faith, politics, whatever. The whole point is, Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living, and let's get together and examine life, the big questions, the questions that you might not talk about at a cocktail party, but we're going to bring in this amazing speaker, and we'll hear, and then there's Q&A and stuff, and it's just been a lot of fun, and we only do email advertising, or invitations. Yeah. We just tell your friends and stuff, and we get between 200 and 300 people at every event, and we charge. It's actually subsidized. We've got some patrons, we've got a grant from Templeton Foundation and stuff, but it's been amazing, and we try to have fun. My introductions are always really dumb because the speaker is going to be really intelligent, and so I want to represent both sides. So, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Is there a dream guest that you have not had yet that you at some point want to have?
Yeah, but they're all dead. So I don't think we're going to get
That'll
them.
be problematic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all who you know and whether they're alive. So,
That's true.
Yeah.
So, talking about this idea of, you've mentioned some ideas about culture, and we've talked a little bit about politics as well. What is this current election cycle we're in? What does it tell you about culture and where culture is right now and where it's going?
Do you mind if I weep openly?
Yeah.
You mind? You do mind? No, you can tell you mind.
No,
I will not weep, but I guess I'll try to say something about it. Well, I think that the convergence of serious issues, politics, and entertainment is increasing, and it's a natural downside of kind of a capitalist liberal democracy, right? We don't have time to get into that big conversation, but the fact of the matter is that I think it's good and it's bad, because it makes us insist on being entertained when probably it would be better for us to actually think about issues more. And I think that it's such a big conversation that all I'll say is that I don't know where it's going to lead us. I don't know what's going to happen with this election, but it's definitely it's difficult for us, I think, in this country, because we're trying to. It's very hard, I should say, to resist the temptation to take in everything in an entertainment way. I mean, we know that Sarah Palin was on Saturday Night Live the other night. McCain was on Letterman. Biden was on Leno. These aren't necessarily bad things, but there are bad aspects to it.
Yeah.
And again, that's a 45-minute conversation. I won't even I won't try to get too deep into that. But it's there's room for several books on that subject.
The idea of I think some people have resurrected this idea of the culture war, and particularly around Sarah Palin with some of the. What is your thought on? What does the culture war mean?
Yeah.
Is there a culture war still going on?
I think in some ways there is a culture war. It's all, there's aspects of it that I don't mind, and there are aspects of it that are really unfortunate and disturbing. I think that the problem with the quote-unquote culture war is that it tends to lead to people just yelling at each other, and you don't get anywhere. I think we've had a lot of that. I also think that it forces politicians to play the game of I'm going to speak in sound bites, or I'm going to say this because it's going to get those people on my side, or I'm not going to say this Because, I mean, when you think about it, there are all these hot-button topics that you just cannot have an actual discussion about. That's unhelpful. I mean, that's unhelpful. Whether you talk about homosexuality, you're talking about abortion, you're talking about any of those things, it would be helpful, undeniably, to have a civil discussion on these, let's say, those two things.
Yes.
Because I know that most people, when I talk to them, they're pretty ignorant. In other words, they've got sound bites, they've got passions, but they don't really know beyond that. They don't think beyond that. You could talk about intelligent design and evolution. It's the same kind of thing. Like, we have a lot of passion, a lot of anger, a lot of fear, and so people don't tend to really go beyond the surface.
Yeah.
There's no question that's bad for the culture. That is bad for the culture. Nobody's winning. So I'd like to think that there might be a way to move past that, but it's hard.
Yeah. So you have a book that this Bonhoeffer book that's coming up next. What's next for Eric Metaxas?
We don't know, Will. What do you got? I think that the Bonhoeffer book has been an agony and a joy. He is somebody that I think everyone, certainly anybody who thinks of themselves as some kind of Christian, should be really familiar with this man. He is, in my estimation, utterly unique. He is unique. And as devout a Christian in the best sense of anyone I've ever seen, without any question, he is extraordinary. And his book, Life Together, and The Cost of Discipleship, there's nothing like them. And so I want Christians in particular to get really excited about this guy, because there is just nothing like him. He's fascinating. So this is something that I'll be talking about. I do a lot of public speaking. I've done a lot of public speaking on Wilberforce, and I assume I'll do a lot of public speaking on Bonhoeffer. And for me, it's a ministry. It's something that I want to get people excited about what God did through these men, because I know that God wants to do similar things through every man and woman on the planet. And so I'll be talking about Bonhoeffer for a long time. The book's supposed to come out in April. I'm sure that I will continue to write books. I have another Everything You Always Want to Know About God book, Jesus edition, that'll be coming out in about a year, which is humor and apologetics. Not a lot of humor and apologetic combinations out there, so I'm hoping to get that niche. And I think
maybe unintentionally humorous.
Yeah, sometimes it's unintentionally, and but yeah, right. In my case, I try to make it mostly intentional. But but I've got a number of other children's book projects and things coming out, and I continue to want to do TV, because I think it's important to be talking about the kind of things that we've just been talking about. But so I see TV in my future, perhaps even a flat screen TV.
Excellent. Yeah, very good. Well, Eric, I very much appreciate your time today. Tell our viewers once again how they can find out more about the work you do. Your website?
These guys?
Yes.
Hey, how are you? My website is ericmetaxas.com. I will spell that. ERICMETAXAS.com. If you can spell it, most computers will take you there. But yeah, if you go to ericmetaxas.com, it'll tell you everything you want to know about what I'm doing, and maybe there'll be a link to this interview, which would be very circular, wouldn't it? If the people watching this would go to my website and click on it and then watch this again, and they would just...
And they'll come to my site and see a link to your site.
Yeah, and we'll always be there. We'll always be right here.
Very good. Thanks very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.